Hours went by from the last time I had saw Douma in the hallway. I slightly started to worry, but one of the cult servants saw him making wedding preparations in the main worship room a while ago. Taming my panic, I knelt on the floor, holding our clothes that I had just finished putting out from the drying rack when Douma opened the door to the room we shared. He gave me a smile, but it wasn't a smile I was used to. "Hello, my love," Douma said as he walked over to me and bent down low enough to where I could kiss him. I pecked his lips, and I analyzed him, wondering why he seemed so different. I got the same feeling from him I had at the first night I ever met him, as if he was empty on the inside. Instantly it hurt me, because I was worried I did something wrong, or did something to ruin the love we had worked so hard to build. He didn't know how to manage his emotions, so I figured he wouldn't know how to tell me if he wasn't feeling right. "Douma, are you all right?" I asked concernedly. His brows softened at my words as he patted me softly on the head. "I am perfect, my princess." I softly smiled and looked away, continuing to fold his turtleneck. I knew he was lying, but there was nothing I could think of saying without assuming he wasn't telling the truth. After all, my instincts could be wrong. I didn't want to call him out as a liar, but there was a way he had grown to be around me. I knew when it was being genuine, because ever since he told me he was falling in love, he was different, and it would be something I would never forget. I remember how cold his words used to be when he wasn't in love with me. I remember how much of a demon he was when I first met him, how his aura radiated terror and menacingness. But until today, he stopped being that way. He was gentle, honest, and warm. And his heart, and, well, how do I say this? He felt his heart, and not his brain nor his mouth. Everything he said, it was meaningful, and it was real. But now we're going back to square one. "Listen, Yin, I need to go out tonight. I got to complete some things for Muzan-sama. So I'm going to have to do some detective work, we can call it," he said in a cool manner. My mind raced. Was he being honest? Was his old friend Muzan that had come by earlier? He noticed my blank face and cocked his head in confusion. "Is that all right, darling?" he asked, and I snapped back into the present and nodded and gave him a fake warm smile. "Of course, my love, just please be careful," I said, dreading the long night without him. Most nights we'd take a bath together, or walk the streets of the red light district, or please one another in our lavish bed, but tonight would be the first night he and I wouldn't be together since I arrived at the cult. No worries. I'll be back soon. And thank you for folding my clothes. He kissed the top of my head and walked towards the door and began to make his way out. I met his rainbow eyes before he closed it behind him. "I love you, Yin," he said right before he closed the door, not letting me tell him that I loved him back. Saying I was worried was an understatement. What was it that this man wanted from him? And why was he acting so weird? I wish that he'd come back to normal when he came back. But more so, I wish he'd come back okay. If the man has a way of making demons, I'm sure he has a way of getting rid of them too. And something deep inside me told me that the man wasn't fond of Douma. Douma had a god complex about him that probably threatens the divinity that which the man feels for himself. My worries soon turned into anger. Douma could take care of himself, and I was bitter at what just happened. We weren't even married yet, anyhow, and he was lying already. At first, I tried to defend Douma in my head, and now I realized there was no excuse. Lies were a slap in the face, especially when it was so evident, and I was mad for myself for not calling him out. I finished folding the clothes a lot more aggressively than I had been previously, and put them in their place so that I could lay down in the large empty bed and, well, be pissed off. I had definitely grown dependent on Douma and his company. I laid there and I realized how unlike and different he and I both were. My emotions were always clear and evident, unlike Douma, yet he and I don't have anyone in our lives but each other. I was angry at the fact that he lied to me. I knew he wasn't being genuine, and I knew something had happened to make him act like this way. Even though I was worried it was something I had done, I convinced myself that it couldn't be the case. He changed the moment he felt the presence of another demon in the cult. And as I tried to drift off into sleep, I only grew angrier from Douma's lying. I hadn't been angry for a while, and my vision started to blur. I remember what happened when I get this angry. As an image began to appear, I expected to see a house I used to live in, and my family within. But this time, it was different. The scene was familiar, yet I wasn't looking at my mother or brother. It was Douma. I could see this time. It was in the presence of a man who turned me into a demon. By the way, it's time for POV change. Douma's POV. As Douma walked out of the main doors of the ethereal paradise cult, he was met with a crisp night air of autumn turning into winter. He was worried about the well-being of his future wife, as well as the safety for her family. He stopped in his tracks as an image of a made-up family of what he expected Yin's kin to look like popped into his head. This was the first time he ever cared about the well-being of lowly humans. Shaking the feeling off of his head, he wondered what plans of action should take. The Douma before Yin could have murdered the family instantly, giving Muzan what he wanted. But he was a changed man, and he knew that if he killed his wife's family, she'd surely leave him, or worse, take her own life by exposing herself to the sun. The idea entered his mind, but he quickly erased it from his thoughts, and felt bad for even thinking such nonsense. He would have to reason with Muzan before killing the innocent family of his beloved bride. Just wasn't an option. He knew the Demon King would be pissed, but it wasn't like Douma to be easily replaced. Akaza was extremely strong, but the difference between power is really big to the fact that Akaza didn't even touch women. Douma, by the demon standards, was stronger because of the nutrients he gets from females, setting up far apart from Upper Moon 3, but it didn't matter to Muzan whether they ate women or not. He had no sympathy for either of his subordinates, or the actions in which they believed to be, noble. All he cared about was finding the blue spider lily, or a demon with the capability of conquering the sun, and he thought he was getting pretty close. As Douma snagged a woman to consume from the dirty alleyway, he came upon a young man holding a burnt figure. The kid was desperate to help the figure, and Douma could sense it. Didn't have much time to live. What a golden opportunity to rescue these two and have them climb the ranks of 12 Kizuki in order to help Muzan without having to kill more humans or worse. Killian's family. Yin would be so proud of me, Douma thought to himself as he healed the two siblings. From around the corner of the alleyway came the Demon Lord himself. Douma was puzzled to see him, but didn't find it too odd considering Kokoshiba was in town not too long. Ah, dear Muzan, it's always a pleasure, Douma said as he bowed his head, letting the remains of the girl he was snacking on fall off his back. Perfect timing. I just gave these to my blood in hopes you turn them into demons. Judging from my senses, these two have upper moon potential. Douma cooed, and Muzan rolled his eyes and refrained from answering his subordinate while Douma stood there, with the happiest smile on his face. Muzan accepted the two teenagers and explained that they would need to accomplish in order to become a part of the upper moons. He told the two to also stay out of the sun as he shooed them away and turned his attention to the blonde, rainbow-eyed man. Since when have you ever wanted to get married? Muzan asked, annoyed. Douma giggled at his condensation question and hummed as he thought, his chin in his hand whilst his pointer finger tapped on the corners of his mouth. Well, Douma began to explain, excited to tell someone about his love story, but Muzan cut him off. Sincerely, I really don't care. Muzan scolded. What? Oh, what do you need from me, Lord Douma? Douma asked, bowing once again. He was worried deep inside because he had a sense of what was coming. He didn't want to beat Muzan to the punch, considering Kokoshibo's information would be incorrect. But the last thing he wanted to hear was anything regarding Yin's family. But sadly, that's what came next. Your future wife. She has a loving family, she remembers, right, Douma? He felt his heart clench up in his chest as he avoided Muzan's eyes. This was the first time he had ever struggled to have a conversation with a demon king. He knew this was all because of Yin, but he didn't blame her. After all, it was he who left himself fall in love, and it was he who craved the love Yin gave him. Yes, Douma gulped, shooting Muzan a don't even think about it look. Muzan began to laugh at Douma's newfound fear was a joke to him. Who would have thought that the heartless psycho of a cult leader who absorbs most of his followers whole would be quivering in fear for some feedable humans? Muzan ranted. You disgust me. To think I gave you so much of my blood, yet you still find a way to dig into that long, lost humanity of yours. Don't you remember how your parents never loved you? Even though Muzan was so harsh, none of the words hurt Douma. All he could think about was Yin and her family, and what she would do if Douma massacred them. You are to murder her family, Douma, or you'll lose your rank as an upper moon. Muzan spat, not feeling any sort of empathy. Douma looked into Muzan's eyes and felt the blood coursing through his veins in anger. She'll kill herself, Douma managed to say without breaking down. Muzan's eyes shot open, as if he hadn't thought of that possibility arising. What do you mean? No, she can't, Muzan said desperately. Douma raised an eyebrow in wonder as why he cared so much about Yin's life. Why does that matter to you? Douma questioned, hoping it would make Muzan second-guess his request. Muzan looked angry and conflicted, as if someone had thrown a wrench in his plan. He wanted to tear Yin from Douma, and he assumed if Douma killed her family, she'd never want to see him again. But if she killed herself, everything Muzan was hoping would happen would cease, and he'd have to start from square one. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but you must keep her alive. I have a reason to believe your precious wife will soon be able to conquer the sun. Douma fell to his knees from the news, terrified of what this meant for his love. All he wanted to do was protect her, and the last person he thought would take her away was Muzan. Relax, you idiot. I'm not going to kill her. I don't even know if she'll be able to, but she must stay alive, Douma said. So that means I'm not to kill her family? Douma asked, hoping the demon lord had changed his mind. Muzan went back and forth in his head, upset at the situation, but coming to terms with the fact that Yin was different, Most demons would do anything to keep their mortality, and most demons couldn't remember their families. But Yin was different. He would have to change his mind. Fine. No. You can't hide her from me, Douma. Remember that, he said as he swiftly left, leaving Douma still knelt to the ground, numb from the mess of emotions. He quickly made up his mind that, once again, his beloved would not know about this. But unlucky for him, she already knew.